So did you know that the Justice League fought Godzilla about a little over a year ago in the comics? Yeah, me neither. But apparently, they did. It was 7 issues long, and now there is a sequel comic that is 3 issues in, and it's supposed to be about 5 issues long, so there is a lot going on. The crossover is called Justice League vs. Godzilla vs. Kong. Essentially, it's a crossover between DC and the Monsterverse, which throughout this comic is more or less being stated to be the Monsterverse that we saw in the movies, but not canon. This entire comic book is not canon. It's its own little universe, own little storyline, and it's just a hell of a lot of fun. Like, if you like big monsters, if you like the Justice League fighting monsters and fighting their main rogues gallery in the Legion of Doom, this is just the issue for you. To sit down and just take some time out of your day and read something that's just a lot of fun to read with some really great artwork and really cool action sequences, while still having a good story to really dig into. Now, this isn't a big beat-to-beat, issue-to-issue recap of this crossover. This is just me giving you the general story and my thoughts on this whole crossover and my general opinion on it, and if you should just read it at the end of the day, whether you be a DC fan or a Monsterverse fan. But before I get into my initial thoughts and what the story is, please don't forget to like and subscribe and hit the notification bell to be updated whenever I upload next for future videos. Really helps, and it shows you guys enjoy what I make here on the channel and shows you want to see more. I'm almost at 1,000 subscribers, so let's try and push to that milestone right now. That'd be a hell of a lot of fun. It'd be a really big milestone for the channel, and it'll keep me motivated to keep making more videos like this in the future. Now then, let's jump right into the video. Now, the basic setup for this comic is that Superman is proposing to Lois Lane in this iteration, and a good chunk of issue 1 is literally Superman more or less just trying to tidy up a lot of the issues around the globe, and especially Metropolis, so that when he gets a chance to propose to Lois, it will be perfect. Even having a small scene between him and Bruce in Clark's apartment, just talking about potential difficulties between the whole, Superman getting married thing. Even Bruce being well aware that he can't help but think of the worst case scenarios, but just a nice little scene that showcases the friendship and trust the two of them have built over the years, and scenes like that between Batman and Superman are always appreciated. But while this is going on, Lex has been doing this as a type of distraction so that the Legion of Doom can break into the Fortress of Solitude to steal Orion's sled, as well as a mother box. And in the ensuing chaos, when Supergirl leads the Justice League to the fortress so that Superman can focus on his engagement to Lois, they end up fighting the Legion, and it ends up causing a massive explosion that transports the Legion of Doom to Skull Island in the Monsterverse, as we see King Kong literally fighting a bunch of skull crawlers and other giant creatures on the island. And we then end up going to see a base that is from Monarch with information about the Titans, Godzilla, and Kong, and a bit of a scene with Toyman, basically considering these monsters as toys that he would love to take home and play with, and that he would want to use these against the Justice League. Important to note that I actually forgot to put down in the introductory, Toyman stole this crystal from the Fortress of Solitude, and it kind of grants wishes to an extent. And so this is more or less the inciting incident for what happens as we go forward, because in issue 1, Godzilla shows up at the very beginning, and we flash back to the events that lead up to it, and it is pretty much confirmed that Toyman ended up bringing the Titans to their DC universe through this rock, this crystal that ended up responding to his wishes after Legion managed to get home. And it wasn't just Godzilla that came to this version of the DC universe. It was 3 other Titans. Well, 4 other Titans, one at Themyscira, one in Central City, one in Atlantis, and one in Gotham. And so we get the Justice League split up to deal with all of these different Titans, while Superman is dealing with Godzilla. Shazam shows up, and inevitably, stuff happens in the fight that causes Superman to have to shield Shazam after he uses his lightning bolt to try and deal damage to Godzilla, but it does nothing, and so Superman shields Billy. But this ends up knocking out Superman, seemingly killing him, stopping his heartbeat, which concerns Supergirl. And so they fight against Godzilla for a bit, and they end up having to take Superman to the Watchtower. Godzilla disappears, and Supergirl helps with more of the kaiju fights. And while all this is going on, while Superman is being kept at the Watchtower, everyone thinking he might be dead, but Batman thinking that he can be brought back, Ollie, Green Arrow, is on Skull Island, basically running for his life from all the giant monsters and King Kong on this island. But after a bit of intervention with Supergirl, Ollie kind of finds a bit of a common ground, from what we can say, with King Kong, and they kind of leave each other alone. But it's then that we kind of get some, League of Assassins type stuff, as they're stealing a Skullcrawler skull, from what we can assume for future stuff with the League of Assassins, which we'll find out at the end of this crossover. But of course, League of Assassins are going to do some wild shit in this as well. But while the League is dealing with all these Titans, and while Ollie's on Skull Island with the League of Assassins and Kong, Lex finds this giant core that is obviously a part of Mecha Godzilla, takes it and begins running experiments in secret. And while that's going on, we see more kaiju fights. We see the League fight more kaijus, especially in Atlantis, with this giant Kraken-esque Titan, as Godzilla shows up to fight it. And heck, I love this moment in the comic where Aquaman ends up literally summoning the Kraken to fight this other sea creature-esque Titan, and then Godzilla shows up. It is honestly really, really fun. But it ends up leading to Godzilla having to turn himself onto the Justice League, but Wonder Woman and Aquaman managed to find a way to get Godzilla into the trench where the Kraken was held and chain him up, basically leaving him in the trench, locked up to not cause any major issues at this time. And then back at Skull Island, Supergirl, after going back there, ends up getting subdued and weakened by Gorilla Grodd with a kryptonite helmet, and Grodd ends up taking control of King Kong, so it ends up leading into Metropolis, which will lead into the final confrontation. We get more Green Lantern Corps members showing up as they help repair the Dome of Atlantis, and then we get the Justice League having a meeting on what to do with the rest of these Titans, and especially Godzilla. But it's then that Mecha Godzilla comes online, thanks to Lex, and uses a frequency that has been reaching all these different Titans, and makes them all come to Metropolis, as it seems that Lex has this under his control, and is basically going to use them to try and take out the Justice League and destroy Metropolis, all that stuff. Now, as these entire events of this comic is going on, Lois is on the Watchtower with a seemingly dead or comatose Superman, as we end up learning that Mercy, Lex's right-hand woman, his secretary essentially, has been Lois's man on the inside for a lot of stuff going on with LexCorp, and even Mercy thinks Lex has gone off the deep end with what he's doing with the Titans and now Mecha Godzilla, and basically gives the information to Lois and the Justice League, and ends up having the Justice League prep to intercept Lex. And then Batman just reveals, oh, I have this big-ass Titan robot, seemingly based off of what they figured out about the Titans, and he goes to fight Lex with it. Then the Green Lanterns of Earth use the constructs to make a literal Green Lantern robot for all of them fight together, while Nightwing is fighting the Legion of Doom with other members of the Justice League. Grodd shows up with King Kong and a mind-control Supergirl, but after they manage to get the kryptonite helmet off of Grodd, snapping Supergirl back into it, Beast Boy turns into a giant ape to fight King Kong, and then they manage to kind of snap things out of it and bring things more to control. But it's then that the League of Assassins reveal that they used the Lazarus Pit to basically revive a giant Skullcrawler, and now that's in the mix alongside 3 Titans and Mecha Godzilla and King Kong. Also, I didn't mention this earlier, but in the chaos, the robot kind of fell apart. The guy was on the ground, and when Grodd showed up, he kind of killed Guy Gardner. Literally, it's part of the entire, honestly, it's part of the joke throughout all DC, that no one gives a shit about Guy Gardner, and everybody doesn't really like him at all. Literally, Hal's like, oh god, Guy's dead, and everyone's kind of like, okay, let's keep moving on. And even at the end of the issue, people just don't really care that Guy is dead. And I find that hilarious. It's incredibly consistent across almost every single iteration of DC in most of their comics. I just find this running joke hilarious. But while everyone's in the middle of a giant, basically a free-for-all with multiple different kaiju, and the Legion of Doom, and the League of Assassins, we cut back to Godzilla in the trench close to Atlantis, as Superman all of a sudden emerges and is getting ready to take on Godzilla. So Superman's back in action, as we end up learning that Batman, essentially in a last-ditch effort to bring Sue back, was just launch him into the sun. I mean, okay. I mean, look, there wasn't full-on confirmation that he was dead, technically, but yeah, Batman just launched Superman into the sun, let that supercharge him to basically heal him and basically kind of restart his heart and all that. So when in doubt, Superman's out, launch him into the sun, and he'll be back at full power, maybe even stronger. But yeah, that was actually kind of fun. But Superman fights Godzilla a bit in the trench and frees Godzilla, as he came to realize, especially with the information they learned about the Titans and Godzilla especially, is that he essentially is the king of the monsters and also kind of the Earth's balance, like wants balance in the Earth, and essentially tries to get rid of anything that kind of disrupts the natural balance of the world. And since Godzilla came to a world where metahumans exist, and its world does not have metahumans, Godzilla saw Superman especially as a big imbalance to the world, something that it doesn't seem, I think, is like natural for the balance of this world. And so it kind of stirred Godzilla into a frenzy, which is why he started to attack Superman especially. But Metropolis is still in a massive kaiju free-for-all, especially right now with Batman against Lex. Batman manages to break Mecha Godzilla, but in the ensuing chaos, Kong ends up becoming a Green Lantern, being given a temporary Green Lantern ring, conjures up a construct of a giant axe, and fights back against Skullcrawler with Beast Boy's help. And as things continue, Superman, with Cyborg's help, ends up opening up a boom tube and brings him and Godzilla to Metropolis, as with Superman's help and Godzilla, the massive Skullcrawler that was there, and Superman ends up using the Dreamstone that he found to wish all the Titans and Kaiju back to their world, essentially undoing what the Toyman did with the Dreamstone, which, you know, looking back, I just realized I did not call this stone that Toyman found the Dreamstone. That's a big mistake. I am sorry about that. I was too excited to write down the name of that one, but corrections and mistakes are made. Apology. But the thing I like is that there's also kind of another kind of subtle funny joke. Everyone was looking for Toyman. This was kind of a subplot throughout the comic, especially with Deathstroke and Cheetah, to find Toyman and find that Dreamstone to kind of deal with the whole Titan kerfuffle. Turns out he died instantly after Godzilla made landfall in Metropolis, thanks to Dreamstone, and he was stopped to death, and the Dreamstone was stuck underneath Godzilla's foot the entire time, meaning that the MacGuffin they needed to kind of end this whole chaos was with Godzilla the entire time, literally stuck under his foot from crushing the man that brought them there in the first place. Honestly, kind of fitting end for Toyman in this crossover, in my opinion. He was kind of annoying, and he kind of did shit and ruined everything for a lot of people. Made things incredibly chaotic for no reason, just for his own basic amusement, seeing the Titans as toys and kind of, you know, responsible for a lot of damage and stuff like that. So, you know what, him getting crushed to death, I find that funny and fitting. While I can't say that the literal MacGuffin to end this entire thing being underneath Godzilla's foot is kind of convenient, at the same time, it's really the only other way you could kind of end this, because Godzilla would still end up trying to fight Superman and a lot of the metahumans due to its nature of maintaining balance. So, yeah, that ends up being a whole thing. But the Titans are sent back, the Legion is arrested, and the comic ends with Superman and Lois officially engaged. Overall, this is a fun comic. I loved it. I love Godzilla, I love King Kong, and I especially love DC and the Justice League. So of course, I would have a lot of fun with this. Look, this is a one-off Elseworlds crossover comic, meant purely for fun. And it shows with the artwork and the writing of how this comic is presented that this was made with spectacle in mind. But this crossover is made more enjoyable because the characterization of everybody involved is still spot on. And so it doesn't sacrifice the characters for the crossover spectacle and just hype of having these different IPs clash with one another in a massive, massive brawl. Would I recommend this? If you like just fun shit, some big epic monster fights, you will love this comic. You will have a good time. If you just want something to read to pass the time, I recommend this wholeheartedly. But if you're someone that wants a real serious storyline with like character development, potential repercussions for the DC universe as a whole, considering it's not canon, I wouldn't recommend it. And this doesn't really tell some deep, intricate philosophical story or some big change in the status quo or basic what if in like many Elseworld titles tend to do. This is just a fun, big crossover of these very famous IPs that if you're a fan of either, you'll have a good time. So yeah, I recommend this if you just want to have a good time. I enjoyed it, and I think many others will if given a proper shot. And I'm going to read the entirety of Justice League vs. Godzilla vs. Kong 2 that is currently running right now once that whole thing is done. So if this video does well or decent, I'll probably cover the next one when that's all finished. So let me know in the comments below. Did you like this video? Would you like to see more just condensed summarization, thoughts, reviews of comic issues and storylines in the future? Because that's something I do kind of want to do going forward, as I think it'd be a lot of fun to do and would give you guys something to watch and listen to in your spare time. And if there's anything particular, like specific storylines, comic runs, Elseworlds, or just short runs of comics, limited runs, that you would like me to talk about, review, or even recommend to people, leave your thoughts in the comments below with your recommendations that I can get to and eventually talk about in the future. And what's more, if you haven't already, like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for updates on future videos. Really helps and it shows you guys enjoy what I make here on the channel and shows you want to see more. And if it's all that said and done, hope you all have an awesome day.